Jellyspoons, welcome back to another Monday Madness. We're starting the week off right with some chaos. As you may have noticed this week, my voice has gone blah. Mostly because I did a couple of days where I continuously filmed commissions, mostly in Peter Pan, so I did a lot of running about and shouting and talking and various different things, which I hope have made a lot of children very, very, very happy. I'm totally happy to do it. It was great, but in the process, my voice has gone just a little bit. So it will not be subdued. I will still be my normal self, but yeah, just maybe a little octave or two. First off, I have been told that self-plugging is the professional way to do things, so seeing as I'm pretending to be a professional, I am going to self-plug now, self-insert plug. I have a Ko-fi and a Patreon if you would like to support me monthly. It starts at $3, I think, on Patreon, and you get behind-the-scenes photos and mostly dog photos. That seems to be what has drawn people in. If you would like to support me monthly on Patreon, please do that. Link in the doobly-doo. If you would like to support me randomly, as often as you would like, I have a Ko-fi. And if you would like to commission one of the commissions I mentioned earlier, then head on to my Ko-fi commissions page because I do personalised messages in character. Currently I am offering Peter Pan, so you can have a message direct from the Neverland. I also have Mollymauk and Lucien, if you would like a message from the sassy and amazing Mollymauk, or if you would like a slightly sarcastic eye-rolling message from Lucien the Nonagon, then I have those as well. And I have also just added Puck as well from a Midsummer Night's Dream. So if you would like a Shakespearean soliloquy of your very own, invented by me, then hit up my Ko-fi commissions page and you can get one of those from Puck. So self-plugging over and done with. I have Ko-fi, I have Patreon if you would like to support me. Excellent. If not, please watch this video, leave a like, leave a comment. I love you all, and my current Ko-fi and Patreon supporters, I love you so much, and you'll be excited to know that in a couple of days my fabric that y'all have helped me to buy for my May cosplay will be arriving, so super excited to get started on those. Alright, so self-plug over and done with, back into the video. Now today we are talking about something that I did touch on in one of my other previous videos, link up there in the doobly-doo, bing! The previous video I'm talking about is my defense for Lucien from Critical Role. I did a video all about why I thought all the negative things going on around him were actually kind of unwarranted, and my take on his character and a bunch of stuff. Go watch that video if you want to see that. But it does touch on a very important subject for me, villains and their characters. So today's video is going to be why villains own my heart. Just as we're diving in, let me know your favourite villains down in the comments. Is it me? Better be me. Tell me your favourite villains, where they are from, if you want to give me a top 10, top 5, top 1, whatever you would like. Tell me your favourite villains in the comments. This is a villain-centric episode, no good guys allowed. Morally questionable, morally dubious, absolutely fine, but no good guys. Anyone who has been watching my videos for a while will know that I am ridiculously picky about the things that I enjoy. And I surprisingly do like quite a lot of things. I like quite a lot of genres and stuff, but the one genre that will forever be my absolute favourite and go-to is the fantasy genre. Now, a big problem that I have is, being the picky person that I am, I don't actually find that much fantasy that I really seriously enjoy. I find most of it to be kind of melodramatic and not in the fun way. You know, like when you go to watch a stage show and it's all hammed up just a little bit because they're on stage, that's fine. And you know, TikTok acting is always a bit blah. So without deviating too much down that rabbit hole, just know going into this that I enjoy quite a lot of things, but there are some things that I will watch and go, huh, yeah, that was cool, as opposed to the few things that I'll watch and go, I am so invested, this is amazing, wow. But in thinking about why I'm so picky and what kind of things it is that really draw me into a good story, or at least my version of a good story, well, one of the main important things is how the villain is written. I've always been a very big believer that nobody is evil for no reason. No bad behaviour comes from just nothing. It's like breeds of dog, everyone says are dangerous. No, they were just very badly trained by poor owners. You know, you should be more afraid of the owners than those poor dogs. Anyway. So what I'm going to talk about today is what, in my opinion, makes a very good and very investment-worthy villain. Most of the time, the hero or any of the sort of good main characters don't tend to be my favourites. A handful of exceptions to this would be Peter Pan, Mollymauk, and Sirius Black, all of whom are considered the hero or the good guys, or at least on the good guys' side. Although all three of those I would actually argue are not wholly good either. Probably why I like them. They've all got a hint of villainy. In fact, each one of those three of my favourite characters could very easily be turned into the villain. Sirius Black, if he'd listened to his family, and he did end up going to Azkaban, and we thought of him as a villain for a very long time. Mollymauk, who quite literally becomes Lucien, who is a bad guy. Spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 2 post episode 26. And Peter Pan, who I have talked about the dark side of in a previous video. Bing, bing, bing. But does have quite a lot of badness and darkness to him. Huh. So yeah, I don't like any of the heroes. I think this says more about me than anything else. Oh well. Plus, the cosplay fates have spoken, and when I drew my May cosplay out of this jar on my live, it drew Silas Briarwood, who is definitely a baddie. And then, of course, we decided to add in the Darkling as my extra cosplay. So anyone who does not already know, hello, welcome to my 12 months of cosplay challenge. That's a whole nother video series. In my 12 months of cosplay challenge, every month I am making a new cosplay in the year 2021, and I am just starting to embark on my May cosplay. My main one is going to be Silas Briarwood from Critical Role Campaign 1, and I have also sneakily added in the Darkling from Shadow and Bone, the Netflix series and the book series. So it's a very bad guy oriented kind of time for me at the moment, so I figured, yeah, why not make a video discussing it? So, why do villains get, and more importantly, why do they keep so much of my attention? Well, let's start with some early villains who I remember really grabbing my interest. Okay, hear me out on this one. Tom Marvolo Riddle, aka Lord Voldemort. I'm gonna say right off the bat, I am not a Lord Voldemort simp. He is an evil, evil wizard who did evil, evil things, and I do not simp for him. Spoiler alert for The Cursed Child. Skip ahead like 30 seconds if you don't want to know anything about The Cursed Child. One of my biggest problems when I read through The Cursed Child was that they sexualized Lord Voldemort. That is a huge no-no to me. He has always struck me as not just an asexual, but a non-sexual character. This is a character who thought of literally everybody else in the entire world as not only beneath him, but not worth his time. He didn't have friendships and relationships. He didn't care to get close to people like that. He manipulated people, but he never ever needed or wanted them. He didn't even understand the concept of love could be overpowering to him, which is why Harry ended up winning because of his mother dying to save him. This is not a guy who would shag anyone, including Bellatrix Lestrange, who already had a husband. Now, I know, we all like to think, oh, Bellatrix has the hots for Voldemort. You can be enamored with somebody and obsessed by them and want to be as powerful as they are and want to be their right-hand woman without wanting to shag them. Also, Bellatrix's husband was literally a Death Eater right there with her. So, ship whoever you want. I'm not hating on shippers, but I will say that I personally draw a very hard line at Lord Voldemort. Maybe one day I'll do a very belated video on why The Cursed Child was just insultingly bad. I don't need to. Loads of other people have said that. I will point out though, aesthetically, beautiful. The way they do the magic on the stage, it's amazing. I just wish they had a great story to go with those amazing aesthetics. It's a real shame. It really is. Back to the topic at hand. The thing that interested me in Lord Voldemort, or Tom Riddle, was his story. Finding out what drove the bad guys to be bad is absolutely fascinating. Voldemort particularly so. I mean, think about it. An orphaned young boy, dead mother, abandoned a father, grows up in an orphanage, finds it hard to connect with people around him, and then eventually one day a stranger comes to him and says, "You're a wizard." He goes to a magical school, gains loads of power, and decides he wants to change the world. Now that concept could very easily be a hero's story, and in fact, is pretty much Harry's story if you take out the orphanage. He grew up an orphan in a difficult home life. A stranger came to see him, said, "You're a wizard," took him to a magical school, he learned to be powerful and grew up to change the world. So the key interesting part then is the little tidbits, the tiny moments that turn this person from a hero or ordinary person into a villain. Now, of course, in Tom Riddle's case, his version of changing the world meant, obliterating Muggleborns and being very evil. However, the journey of how he got there is still very interesting. Then we have characters like Captain Hook from my favourite story of all time, the story of Peter Pan. Captain Hook was essentially driven mad by a desperate desire to uphold all the things he had been taught in his Eton education, to always have good form, to behave in a certain way. See my Captain Hook's backstory video. And he was also driven to destroy this cocky boy, Peter Pan. Ultimately, the two things clashed together, turned him into this obsessed villain, and he died. A lot of the characters that I really wish we knew more about and desperately want to know their backstory, but we get next to nothing about them, also fall into the villain category. You've got characters like Regulus Black, Sirius's brother, whose in the end quite tragic story of essentially a villain turned hero doesn't get told or known by anyone at all in the wizarding world, and we only hear snippets of it through other characters. The Queen of Hearts from Wonderland. How did she get to where she is? Where did her obsession with chopping off people's heads come from? Did her parents buy her a toy guillotine as a child? Where did that come from? Scar from The Lion King? Fascinating character. And he is quite clearly the unsatisfied villain of the piece, but how did he get there? Other characters such as Ursula the Sea Witch, Pitt from Rise of the Guardians, Lord Farquaad, the Joker, even though I don't actually want to know his backstory. He himself said at one point, if I'm going to have a backstory, I'd rather it was multiple choice, and I do agree with him there. So the Joker counts for me in as much as it's a villain who we don't know the backstory of, and that is kind of part of what makes them like, ooh, really interesting. But also, he is an exception in that I don't want to know. Slightly obscure one, Count Adhemar from A Knight's Tale. He's just a bastard, right? But why? Is he just that women will always be subservient to me asshole, or did something happen? Was his father like that towards his mother? Like, why? Why are you the way you are, Adhemar? Why? Mother Gothel as well from Tangled. We get glimpses of her past. She wanted to stay young and beautiful forever, but where did that come from? That guy whose name I cannot pronounce from The Princess and the Frog. You know, shake my hand. Come on. Shake a pool. Sinner's hand. That guy. I think his name's Falsier? God, I suck at names. And of course, and I'm Javert from Les Mis. That's a very cool take on, is he a villain? Is he not? To Javert, Jean Valjean. Man, saying those two names in the same sentence is difficult. To Javert, Jean Valjean is the villain. He's the criminal who was arrested, who has escaped from justice, and he is hunting down because he's on the side of the law. To Jean Valjean, Javert is the villain because he's trying to take him back to prison when he's made something good of his life and the people around him are now relying on him and he's a better man. So which one of those is right? And part of the point is that neither of them really are. There technically isn't really a villain in Les Mis. It's more perceptions. And I'm not saying that anything that these villains do is good. I'm just saying that the reasons that they get to where they get to and make the decisions that they make, evil as they are, that's what I'm interested in. And if that's been written well, whether we get to know it or not, that's a good villain. Then we have the fascinating villains whose stories we do know. Characters like Gollum, Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. I will confess, I really enjoy Anakin Skywalker. Amazingly interesting character with a really sad arc. I love everything about it, so I stand Anakin and I'm not sorry about that. Hayden Christensen is a good actor. He was a victim of poor writing and poor directing. As I mentioned before, we've got Loki. Wait for the fans to stop screaming. Okay, carrying on. Characters like Elphaba from Wicked, the book or the show, where we see the Witch of the West, this evil villainess, being turned into this relatable girl who we not only relate to, but understand and want the best for. And then, of course, to tie all this into my May cosplays of villains, we have the Briarwoods, Lord and Lady Briarwood from Critical Role Campaign 1. Spoiler alert for Campaign 1. I am very sorry if you haven't watched it, but at this point, it's been out for years. Come on, you can't spoiler alert it anymore. So in brief, the Briarwood story is that they are husband and wife, deeply devoted to each other, very much in love, and Silas got sick with a disease that could not be cured. Lady Briarwood, absolutely desperate to cure him, searched the land, couldn't find anything, and Silas died. Eventually, Lady Briarwood managed to form a connection with, for lack of a better word, a deity called Vecna, and has her husband resurrected as a vampire. Silas, now a vampire, along with his wife, they fought, they did lots of evil things, they saved each other, and both of them were killed. They came back to life several times, and then eventually were slayed by Vox Machina. The actions that they are doing in the world, and particularly towards one Vox Machina member, Percival, are evil. They are evil people. They are the big bad evil guys at one point. There is a huge arc where they have to be defeated. However, on the Critical Role tarot card set, Lord and Lady Briarwood are considered the lovers, and their story is a love story. I stand the Briarwoods. I stand the Briarwoods, and I'm not sorry. And of course, the other character I am building a cosplay for in May, I am using the same coat for both, from the books and predominantly Netflix series of Shadow and Bone. Small spoilers if you have not watched or read it. The character from Shadow and Bone that I'm going to make a character for alongside Silas is called the Darkling. Of course I love him with a title like the Darkling. How would I not? The goth child in me is screaming. Otherwise known as Alexander with a K. In case you didn't know that he was the big bad evil guy, just look at how he spells his name. I'm sorry, just... It's so obvious when you see it written down. Alexander. Oh, you're the bad guy. I get it, I'm with you. For now, I'm going to go with the Netflix show, which is also what most people seem to have seen. We get a little bit of his backstory in very, very brief flashbacks, and we get it quite late on. To begin with, we think he's quite an aloof good guy. How wrong we were. I'm sorry if you saw Ben Barnes appear and thought he was playing a good guy. So still in spoiler territory here. In the show, at least, can't speak for the books because I don't remember, we slowly learn that this guy, Alexander, yeah, you have to say it like that every time, Alexander, not only is he actually not the good-intentioned good guy we have been led to believe. He is the cause of the one huge bad thing going on in the world at the moment. There's this huge, big sort of, well, it's a literal rift, essentially. It's a huge... Anyway, it doesn't matter. He caused it, and he has been alive for hundreds of years, and he is the bad guy. We get told little snippets about how he's power-hungry and how he manipulates people. And all of this is true. But then, quite close to the end of the show, we see things from the Darkling, Alexander's point of view. The girl, presumably lover or love of his life, gets killed in front of him. It's horrible. And in true, you just killed the love of my life in front of me, you will regret this day style, the Darkling, Alexander. He rises up from the floor because he'd sort of been about to be arrested for being this magic person, and all this black stuff comes over his face, and his like necrotic, for lack of a better word, in D&D terms, I think it's necrotic magic. He's got basically dark, and you get it because he's a Darkling. And it all sort of creeps up over his face, and it builds into all this power, and then he poof, and this huge big jet of huge black magic just blah, goes everywhere. And it essentially breaks the world. It stays for hundreds of years. It's a huge, big, like, very dangerous cloud full of monsters. Everyone who was caught in it gets turned into creatures. A bunch of people die. The world is now separated between this huge blackness that they can't cross through without being torn apart and killed. And that is what the present day characters are dealing with. And in the flashback, we see how it happened and why. And the assumption had always been, and the stories had always been told, that the Black Heretic, I think his name was the Heretic, something like that, I am terrible with names, I'm sorry. The stories had always been told that this had been caused by the evil heretic person for evil reasons, and some people talked about it being an accident, but it had still come of evil and all this. So seeing the flashback and seeing, oh, and it's that moment where, even though you recognise exactly how evil someone's current actions are being, and the consequences of what they did has affected thousands of other people and everything, there's still that moment where, when you see it from their point of view and you understand why it happened, particularly in this circumstance when it was heartbreak and all these horrible things that were happening to him at the time, there's that moment where you watch and you go, oh, I get it. And it's very easy to go, I might have made the same decision, you know? And for me, that's what makes a good villain. A villain has reason. Being evil for the sake of being evil, that's boring. That's lazy writing. Now, you don't need to explain it. You don't need to have it written anywhere in your book. You don't need to show it in flashbacks. You don't need to have it anywhere in the story. But there has to be a reason. The actor playing them, or the writer writing it, needs to know that reason. And it becomes fairly obvious when they know, because it's written better. They're not just written as this caricature, even if they're behaving like it, even if the villain is deliberately acting just like a caricature villain, they're playing a part. And the way that they got there, they know it. The writer knows it, the actor knows it. And that's all you need. Having them being written and being acted and portrayed as a fully fleshed out character, not a two-dimensional caricature, that is what makes me super interested in a story. Because, well, the villains are usually going to be, if not my favourite character, the character that I am very invested in. And so that's what I want. Even if I never know the reason, I want to be wondering why. And if I'm watching a show or a movie or reading something and I'm not wondering, oh, I wonder what their backstory is, it's usually because they've been poorly done. Oh, we need an antagonist here. Oh, we need a bad guy here. Insert evil person doing evil things, or person we'd previously thought was good does a bad thing for no apparent reason, you know? A kick-ass villain will always really sell me something, because let's face it, the villain's a big reason why we're here. We're trying to watch the heroes save the world and beat them, or we're trying to watch them be outsmarted, or even sometimes we watch things from the villain's point of view, or we see a story where we get the twist ending where we think we're watching the hero the whole time and then they turn into the villain. Amazing, fascinating. Gotta be well written, gotta have a reason, got to be interesting. Great villainy. Also, I'm just gonna say it, villains often get the best costumes. I'm gonna insert a bunch of my favourite villain costumes here. Just look at them. Look at them. Why would you ever want to play a good guy when you could wear this? So to finish off this rambling while I get back to making my Silas shirt, I think it's important to remember that a lot of the time, the villain doesn't realise they're the villain. Sometimes they even see themselves as the hero, striving to do something that they think will bring change for the better. Look at Thanos, look at Voldemort, look at Loki, Scar, arguably Lady Macbeth, or the witches, Javert from Les Mis, Lucien from Critical Role. All these characters, and many more, see themselves as doing, in their story, the right thing, the thing that they need to be doing. And the heroes are their bad guys, trying to stop them. This is not me saying that the villains are right and the heroes are wrong. No. In some cases, yes. What I am saying is that, for me at least, a good villain has their own story, whether we see it or not. If you're writing a villain or playing a villain, whether you're doing a D&D campaign, a podcast, a stage show, a movie, whatever it is, just remember, they're a person too. There are reasons why they are the way that they are. Perhaps they are selfish, and perhaps they are evil. Perhaps they are doing all the wrong things. But why? So that will wrap it up for today's episode of Monday Madness. Thank you for hanging out with me today and listening to me with my interesting vocals. Continuing the theme of villains, I'll be posting updates on my Ko-fi and my Patreon for any of my supporters on there. You guys can see how I am getting along with my Silas Briarwood and my The Darkling Alexander cosplays. I am super excited, and I am going to be unashamedly jumping on the bandwagon now that everybody has watched the Netflix Shadow and Bone show. I am very excited to be bringing my Darkling cosplay to people who will now know who it is. And Silas is going to be interesting. I'm gonna have a goatee. It's gonna be great. So have a fantastic week. Goodbye, Jellyspoons. I love you all. Wait. I should probably sign off like a villain. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, come to die. Yes, I know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane. Well, she's married to the Muffin Man. The Muffin Man. The Muffin Man! She's married to the Muffin Man. Proud and insolent youth, prepare to meet thy doom. Say my name! Fine. Make me your villain. Goodbye, Jellyspoons. Goodbye.